Hello. Today I want to take you on a bit of a journey with me back in time, showing you how some of my ideas develop, evolve, grow, and how sometimes art making just feels like you're going from one stepping stone to the next stepping stone, following a path, and you don't know where that's going to end up or where it's going to take you. I think art making is a little bit like being an explorer, and you're off on an adventure and you're looking for treasure, but you don't know what that treasure is and you don't know where you're going to find it. So often I find that my kind of completed, finished series of paintings are like the tip of an iceberg, and there's a whole load of stuff and thought and following threads and exploration that goes on underneath it until I find the key or the combinations that really excite me and interest me, and I think are therefore good enough to be a finished series of work. So I just wanted to kind of follow an idea through time and take you up into this week when I've been working on some bigger paintings. So I was reading through my art journal notebook and I came across what I had written back in December 2022 about how I wanted my art to feel. So this notebook is like my art brain. It's where I put all the ideas, questions that I have, things I want to think about. I just write about my art, and that helps me to articulate to myself some things that may have been kind of swirling around in my brain, but actually it's quite helpful to have them on a page. So at the back end of 2022, I set some intentions about how I wanted my art to feel in 2023. Now, I'm sure, like many of you, the last couple of years have been a bit of a challenge. I've had all sorts of health issues, home issues, my mother died. It was just been, a couple of years of challenge. So I set myself some intentions for my art and possibly also for my life. I was articulating here, writing down how I wanted my art to feel. And I think often when I'm doing that, it's also a reflection of how I want my life to feel. So I've put bold, playful, joyful, re-energised, brave, exciting, more paint, unrestricted and unrestrained. Oh yes. Enthusiasm and expansion. So those have been like my guiding principles, and it was really useful to reread these this week because they were just a really helpful reminder to myself about the kind of art that I want to create, and they sort of helped me move in a slightly different direction, I feel. These are the paintings I've been working on this week. They are quite large, 50 centimetres by 70 centimetres. Nice thick paper, but I've been experimenting with using watercolour, acrylic paint, pencil, and just seeing what I like. Now they're vaguely inspired by some drawings of my mantelpiece, which I'll show you, but I also wanted them to feel abstract. So I haven't entirely decided which way round they're going to go. There is something I quite like about having them this way round. So these were the three that I've been working on this week. So very colourful, exuberant, playful, trying to remember the words that I wrote in terms of how I wanted my art to feel. And actually creating them felt very joyful and playful. And I think that possibly comes across in the end result. Now this was the first one I completed, and I have to say I don't love this painting, and that's fine. I don't ever mind if I've created something I don't like, because there are lots of things that I learnt through the making of this painting. I didn't follow my own advice with this painting. I usually work on several paintings at once because I think it encourages a momentum and a flow and just not to be too precious. And with this painting, I just worked on this painting. I started it and I was only working on this one. And what I have found when I look at it, it's too bitty. It's a bit too finicky, too detailed. It hasn't got enough of that boldness that I wanted. But there are definitely things that I like about it. I mean, I love all the kind of zigzags and the red and the turquoise. There's some of the things that I like in this painting. So it was never going to be a waste of a painting. It's just not how I want my artwork to totally feel. It feels a little bit tight to me. And I wanted this series of paintings to be more bold and exuberant. So I'm using a much bigger brush. I'm being a lot more kind of dauby and blobby and just letting the quality of the paint sort of shine through the marks. I'm not sure if these are finished, but what I definitely know, I was enjoying working on them. And I think that these will probably be a stepping stone to the next set. And then maybe by the next set, I'll have really kind of honed what I want these paintings to be. But there's something that I'm really loving. I'm loving the zigzags. I'm loving all the variety, the colours, the playfulness, the exuberance. So the paintings before those large ones were actually these ones. And I've been drawing chairs in my sketchbook and I wanted to kind of translate those into paintings. So I was using acrylic gouache here, which I like the matte kind of quality of the paint. But I'm not necessarily thinking that these are finished paintings because they were like a stepping stone. And there are things in them I like. The more abstract they get, the more they appeal to me. And that's just my sensibility. So the ones that look really like a chair on a rug don't excite me as much. But I think I had to sort of have this afternoon of play and create these to be able to create the bigger paintings, and that's how it goes. There's always a doorway that you have to kind of walk through, following threads and ideas and looking for the aspects that you're enjoying and liking and relishing. So those were the paintings, and then this is the sketchbook, which I started in December. And actually this was the first drawing that I did in this sketchbook. And it was just picking out different things in my house and really quickly drawing them. And I sort of find with a sketchbook that it takes me sometimes a little while to integrate all the things that I've learnt through the doing. And I think this whole sketchbook is an example of learning through doing. I was drawing things in my house. So the chair in my dining room, the chair in my spare bedroom, got a chair in my kitchen, things that I can see about my house. And as I go through this sketchbook, I feel like I'm finding out more about how I want these drawings to look. I'm sort of developing a style and an approach. So most of my artwork, I would say, is abstract. And this sketchbook is quite figurative for me. So I'm actually taking things that I can see and observing that and using them as a starting point. A loose starting point. So, my kitchen doesn't have a turquoise floor, doesn't have pink cabinets, but it does have this chair and this light and a rug. So I've taken elements that I can actually see and I've expanded and I've used more colour and more pattern, which I clearly love. So a few paintings in this book,
just experimenting, trying things out. And then come a whole series of my mantelpiece drawings that I was drawing whilst I sat on the sofa watching television. And these drawings have really informed the paintings. And that's what I just love about artwork and being an artist. It just feels like I never quite know where something is going to end. So I started this sketchbook with, a bit of a scrappy drawing of some things that I could see in my house. And it sort of unlocked a door that I have really gone through, which has unlocked another door which I have gone through, and it's just a really lovely journey. I think I'm pleased with these pages in my sketchbook, and I'm pleased with how I might be able to translate them into paintings, but they're not necessarily the finished painting. It's a stepping stone, and that is part of the kind of ongoing process of art making for me.
So there we are, a few thoughts on my art process. So firstly, I'd highly recommend writing about your art, exploring how you want your art to feel, and that can be a really useful underpinning and framework to help you create art that feels how you want it to feel. Secondly, when you look at other people's art and think, oh, they can create art brilliantly right from the get-go, there's usually a whole pile of things that have led to that end result. So really follow those breadcrumbs, follow the things that are exciting you, that are interesting you, and hopefully then your art will evolve and develop, and you'll come up with something that just feels unique and personal and exciting to you.